Welcome to Whispers Beyond, where horror, philosophy, and the unknown intertwine. New full-length stories. Every Friday, your requested nightmares. Every Wednesday, bite-sized horrors. Every Monday. And in the spaces between, whispers of poetry and philosophy. Glimpses into the abyss. Like, subscribe, and listen closely.
The Threshold Equation. Final log of Dr. Søren Kerr. Ouroboros 4. Mission time. T plus 7 years. 196 days. I make my final transmission with the full knowledge that no one will hear it. The ship's reactor groans around me, the hull sighing as if exhausted by the inevitable. Ouroboros 4 was built to endure the unendurable, but it was never meant to escape the pull of a singularity. No ship ever could. I have accepted that. The numbers were always against me. Before me, the black hole Gargantua fills the entire viewport, a void so absolute that my brain rejects it, tracing the edges with phantom light that isn't there. A perfect sphere of nothingness, framed by an accretion disk of burning, tortured matter spiraling at near light speed. It looks like a celestial eye, half-lidded, waiting for me to blink first. 100 million stars dance in distorted halos around its event horizon, their light bent and reshaped by an impossible curvature. Time fractures at its edges. Distance is an illusion here. I know, rationally, the universe still exists beyond it, but it may as well not. For me, there is only the fall. The ship's AI, REM, recursive entity model, flickers to life in my headset. Its voice is calm, almost indifferent. Orbital decay at critical threshold. Escape impossible. Do you wish to log final telemetry? Not yet. I glance at the display. Gravitational forces increasing. Ship integrity at 73%. The outer hull will hold for a while longer, but after that, physics will cease to be kind. My body, my bones, my thoughts will all become playthings of the singularity's gravity well. Still, I feel strangely at peace. The physics are simple. Gargantua is a Kerr black hole, spinning near the speed of light, its rotation creating an ergosphere, a region where space itself is dragged along for the ride. The ship is caught in that current now, unable to resist the drift. Soon, I will cross the event horizon, the point of no return. I check my wrist monitor, a simple countdown. T minus 13 minutes to horizon entry. Beyond that, time loses meaning. I open the final transmission channel, broadcasting into the abyss. This is Dr. Søren Kerr of the Ouroboros 4, logging my last report. My ship is in terminal descent past the event horizon of Gargantua. No escape is possible. No recovery will follow. The mission is over. I pause. I should feel something. Terror, regret, even awe. But instead, there is only the clinical detachment of a scientist, making his final observation. My remaining objective is to document what I see. If these recordings survive, if they somehow escape the gravitational well, perhaps humanity will learn something from them. Another pause. I take a slow breath. I can't hear it over the ambient hum of the dying ship, but I feel it in my chest. Somewhere, out there, years beyond my perception, the Earth is still turning. People are living, unaware of me, unaware that I was ever here. In a few subjective minutes, the universe outside will accelerate beyond my comprehension. By the time I cross the event horizon, the world I knew will be unrecognizable. The sun will have burned through eons of its fuel. Civilizations will rise and fall. The last of my species will live and die in a flicker of cosmic time. I close my eyes, and I will still be falling. REM interrupts my thoughts. Structural warning. Hull integrity at 67%. Spaghettification threshold approaching. Not yet. I glance at the viewport again. The distortion is worsening. The photons orbiting the event horizon have begun to loop infinitely, forming a ring of light, an Einsteinian halo of the cosmos trapped in eternal reflection. And there, just beyond it, I see something impossible. I see myself. At first, I think it's a malfunction of the visual sensors. But no, the light bending around the hole has curved space to such an extent that I am seeing my own ship, projected infinitely ahead of me. A cascade of Ouroboros 4 vessels, trailing into infinity, number not infinity. A loop. I feel something then, a deep and nameless horror. This is not just the death of a man. This is the death of perception, of cause and effect, of sequence itself. I reach for the manual override, if only to feel something solid beneath my fingers. A futile action, but my hands want to grasp control one last time. The countdown continues. T-minus 8 minutes. REM, I ask, voice steady. How long until the outside universe ceases to be observable? The AI's response is precise, merciless. 4 minutes, subjective time. 4 minutes. 4 minutes until the cosmos becomes a memory. Until all I will ever know is the dark. I exhale, steadying myself. This was always the mission. To learn what no one else could. To go where no one else would. I stare into the eye of the void. And then I fall. The fall is gentle. That's the first thing that surprises me. For all the apocalyptic theories of black hole entry, theories of violent spaghettification, of flesh and bone stretched into infinite ribbons, I feel none of it. My body remains whole. The ship groans around me, but it does not break. I check the readings. Gravity has increased tenfold, then 100, then beyond the ship's ability to quantify. And yet, I feel only a weightless drift, as if sinking into warm water. My mind resists it, searching for pain, for rupture, for some sensation of death that does not come. And the sky, if I can still call it that, begins to change. The stars behind me blur into impossible streaks, the very fabric of the universe stretching as I accelerate. The event horizon itself no longer appears as a perfect boundary, but as an absence, a hole punched into reality. Around its edges, the universe warps into something unrecognizable, a perfect lens of all that has ever been, all that ever could be, crushed together in the violent geometry of infinite curvature. And then I see it, time breaking. Outside, the cosmos explodes forward. Supernovae burst and bloom in instants. Galaxies collide, their spiral arms shredded into fire and dust. The great clusters of the universe drift, merge, die, all in the span of seconds. I watch entire epochs unfold as I descend. The light from stars that have not yet been born reaches me, passes me, and vanishes. I reach for my wrist monitor, T-minus 5 minutes. But that's a lie. The numbers mean nothing now. Time is no longer something I experience. only something I witness. The ship's systems flicker. I hear REM's voice, distant, tinny, distorted by the relativistic forces tearing at our signal integrity. Telemetry compromised. External chronology accelerating. The observable universe is approaching thermodynamic finality. I swallow hard. The words are clinical, dispassionate, but I understand what they mean. I will outlive the universe. The thought is obscene. I try to quantify it, to make it rational, but the numbers spiral beyond my ability to comprehend. What does it mean to fall forever while everything else dies? I scan the viewport, searching for some anchor of familiarity. And then, against all reason, I see Earth. It should be impossible. Light from the Milky Way should have long since fallen away from my sight, lost to the time dilation. But there it is, a warped, dying world, caught in the lens of gravitational refraction. The planet is unrecognizable. The continents have shifted. The oceans are receding into thick, poisoned clouds. The sky glows with an alien brightness, the sun now swollen and red, a giant, bloated thing on the verge of collapse. I watch it flicker. And then before my eyes, the Earth burns, not in an explosion, not in a cataclysm. It simply fades. The atmosphere peels away like dying skin. The oceans boil off into space, vanishing as vapor into the black. The surface blackens. The final biosphere gasps its last breath, and the planet that gave rise to everything I ever knew, everything I ever was, simply blinks out of existence. I watch it all, and I feel nothing. There is no time to grieve, no moment to absorb it, because the sun follows next. It pulses once, twice, then collapses, its core caving inward in a final exhalation of energy before it withers into a dim, shriveled ember. The remains of the solar system scatter into the dark, reduced to nothing but frozen rock, debris drifting through the corpse of a sky. I should look away. I should close my eyes, but there is nowhere else to look. The universe is dying, and I am still falling. T-2 minutes. If time even exists. REM's voice is breaking apart now, coming through in jittering bursts, corrupted by gravitational interference. Horizon entry. Complete. Final telemetry. Collapsing reference frame. Dr. Kerr, signal instability. No further. The audio cuts. For the first time since I began this descent, I am truly alone. I check the ship's data logs, trying to grasp something tangible, but the feeds are incomprehensible. The numbers have spiraled into impossibility. Infinite mass, zero volume, undefined temporal coordinates. I run a final calculation. If my math is correct, then outside the event horizon, the heat death of the universe has already occurred. That is the moment I realize the true horror of my descent. I am no longer falling into a black hole. I am falling into the end of time itself. T-0. Something changes. I pass a threshold I cannot name, a point where mathematics and reality part ways. The walls of the ship ripple, distort, melt. The material does not collapse. It simply ceases to be relevant. Matter no longer matters. I try to move, but movement is meaningless. I try to breathe, but breath is a function of space, and space is no longer real in the way I once understood. And then, in that instant, I understand the final truth of my journey. The event horizon was never the true boundary. The real boundary was me. I was the limit, my perception, my fragile mind, my human need for things to make sense. But none of that applies anymore. This is not where things end. This is where things stop beginning. I am past the horizon now. The laws I knew are gone. The universe is gone. I should be gone. But I am not. Somewhere, in the collapsing ruins of space-time, something is still watching. And as I drift deeper into the singularity's unknown, I realize, so am I. There is no up, no down, no forward or backward. Space itself is unmade, and with it, direction, velocity, time. The very concepts that once defined my existence, before and after, here and there, have lost their meaning. And yet, I am still falling. The ship is gone. Not destroyed, not crushed, just absent. Like it was never real. Like I was never real. My body still exists, though I don't know if that statement means anything anymore. I can feel my breath, but there is no air. I can feel my heartbeat, but there is no blood. These sensations continue not because they are necessary, but because my mind refuses to let them go. And then I see it. Not with my eyes, because my eyes are just another thing that no longer function in a place without light. But I perceive it, a shape in the abyss, a presence where there should be none. At first, I think it is a trick of my unraveling brain, a hallucination conjured by my dying consciousness, desperate to impose meaning where there is none. But then it moves, and I feel something I have not felt in all my years of study, all my years of staring into the cold equations of the cosmos. Fear. It is not a thing, not in any way that I have words for. It has no mass, no edge, no surface where light can rest. And yet it is there, an indentation in the black, an outline where something greater should be. It watches me. I cannot explain how I know this. I have no eyes to meet, no gaze to intercept, and yet the sensation is undeniable. I am being observed. My mind scrambles for something, anything, to anchor itself to. Logic, rationality, science. I reach for the last remnants of my training, running through every possibility. Could it be gravitational lensing? A quantum fluctuation in the collapsing singularity? A feedback loop of distorted light? No, because the longer I focus on it, the more I realize. It is not an effect. It is an intention. It is deliberate. It is aware. It has always been here, waiting for me. The thing does not speak, not at first, but as I drift closer, or maybe it drifts closer to me, I begin to hear something, not with my ears, but inside me, beneath thought, beneath memory. A soundless voice, speaking in the only language that can survive in a place beyond time. Mathematics. It does not ask who I am. It does not need to. It already knows. It has known since before my birth before my species, before my universe, because it was here first. It doesn't introduce itself because it has no name. Names are for transient things, for beings that must differentiate themselves from the void. But this is not transient. This is not something that will ever cease to be. It is the final observer, the last witness to reality before the collapse of everything into its own equations. And it has been waiting for me to arrive. The numbers come first, not spoken, not written, just known. A flood of calculations, proofs, solutions to questions I have never asked. Prime sequences that stretch into eternity. Fractal geometries beyond my comprehension, the quantum wave form of existence itself. And then beneath it, hidden in the curvature of its infinite logic, I feel the real question it is asking. Are you ready to understand? I do not answer. I do not know how to answer. Because for the first time, I am afraid of knowing. I was a scientist, a seeker of truth. I dedicated my life to peeling back the layers of reality, to looking into the void and demanding an answer. But now, as the void looks back, I finally understand what no equation, no theorem, no experiment could ever prepare me for. The final truth is not a comfort. The final truth is not meant for human minds. It is not knowledge. It is not revelation. It is erasure. I feel my consciousness unraveling at the edges, not being destroyed, being corrected. There is no place for me in the equation it has written. My mind, myself, the thing that once called itself Surin Kur. I am an error, a contradiction in the last proof of existence. The entity does not hate me. It does not want to harm me. It is simply removing the inconsistency. And I know with absolute certainty that if I let it finish, I will no longer be. There will be no memory of me, no record, no fragment of thought to echo in the void. Not even nothingness, just absence. I do not know what makes me fight. Instinct, fear, the last remnants of my individuality refusing to go quietly. Whatever it is, I resist. Not with force. There is no force here. No physics to leverage, no mass to throw against it. I resist with the only thing I have left. A question. What happens if I refuse? The presence hesitates. Not in time, not in motion, not in any way that can be measured, but in logic. In the equation it has been writing since before time began. It has never been asked that before. Because nothing that reaches this point ever resists. There is no resistance at the end of time. There is only compliance. There is only conclusion. There is only the final proof, written without contradiction. And yet, here I am. I feel the equation fracturing, not breaking, just shifting, a calculation adjusting itself for the first time. A probability that was once absolute is now uncertain. An inevitability has become a choice. And for the first time, I feel the presence react. Not with anger, not with fear, but with interest. The question has changed everything. The equation can no longer erase me, because it must now account for me. It must complete itself with me still inside it. And so, for the first time in the history of this place, the final observer rewrites its own theorem. The singularity does not consume me. It does not correct me. It spits me out, back into the light, back into creation, back into a universe I have never seen before. And as I fall, I realize I did not escape. I did not survive. I did something much worse. I changed the ending. And now I have no idea what comes next. I do not emerge. I am emerged. There is no sensation of movement, no transition from one state to another. One moment, I am inside the singularity, becoming nothing, and the next, I simply am. Wherever this is, whatever this is. I expect blackness. I expect silence. I expect the indifferent, lightless void of a universe collapsed into itself. But I am wrong. There is light, a soft, diffuse glow, not from a sun, not from a source I can name. It permeates everything, casting no shadows, obeying no direction. I float, or I stand, or I exist in some middle state between the two, in an expanse that is neither sky nor ground, horizon nor void. I look down. I have a body. It is not the body I remember. I do not feel weight, nor muscle, nor the pressure of blood pushing through veins. I lift my hand, and it moves, but there is no resistance, no inertia, as if my form is an idea of a body, rather than a structure of flesh. I take a step. The ground is there, though I never saw it arrive. And before me, stretching into infinity, the universe is being born. It is not the Big Bang. There is no explosion, no violent rush of energy and matter. There is only formation. Shapes coming into being, assembling themselves from some unseen blueprint. I see galaxies before they exist, stars before they ignite, entire solar systems suspended in an embryonic state, waiting for time to begin so that they may burn. I am standing in the blueprint of reality, not observing it, participating in it, because the moment I notice something, the moment I comprehend its shape, it solidifies. It becomes real. I reach out instinctively to touch a forming star. It does not burn. It does not react. It simply becomes more certain beneath my fingertips. I step back. I should be terrified. Instead, I understand. This is not a new universe. It is a universe waiting to be defined. The realization lands with a weight greater than gravity. I did not escape the singularity. I changed something fundamental. I altered the equation. The final observer was meant to conclude existence, to erase contradictions, to collapse all possibility into a single finished theorem. But it hesitated, because I asked something it had never been asked before. Now the equation is unfinished. Reality is unfinished. And the moment I understand that, the first true horror begins. Because if this universe is waiting to be defined, if it is shaped not by laws but by observation, then what does that make me? I take another step. The ground beneath me bends, not physically, but in certainty. A shape forms in the distance. It was not there before, but now that I see it, it is. A structure, vast and unknowable. Not a building, not a temple. Something older than those ideas. Something I do not yet have the words for. The closer I move, the clearer it becomes. Not because it is appearing, but because I am acknowledging it into existence. This is no longer science. This is something older, something primordial, something I don't have a name for. There is no door. There does not need to be. I acknowledge an entrance, and so there is one. I step inside. The interior is endless. Hallways stretching beyond logic, not in distance, but in probability, as if each path is not a place, but a choice waiting to be made. And then, at the center of it all, I see it. The only thing here that I did not create. A presence, not like the one in the singularity, not infinite, not absolute, but close. Close enough that I feel it looking at me before I see it. It does not have a body. It does not have a form. But it is here, and it speaks. I was wondering when you'd arrive. The voice is neither male nor female, neither human nor inhuman. It is not even a voice. It is a thought so absolute that my mind translates it into sound. I want to ask who it is, but the truth is, I already know. This is not another entity. This is not a god. This is the echo of what I changed. The presence that should have erased me, the observer that should have collapsed the equation. It was rewritten too. It was altered by my question. And now, like me, it does not know what it is supposed to be anymore. I feel the weight of that, the enormity of what I have done. We stand in silence, not real silence, but the silence of two things that were never meant to meet, staring at the aftermath of a paradox neither of us understands. And then it speaks again. So, what do we do now? I do not answer. Not yet, because the true horror is not in the question. The true horror is in the realization that I have to answer it. Because this is a universe that needs an observer to complete it. And right now, I am the only one here. I look out at the half-formed stars, the unshaped galaxies, the equations waiting to be solved. This is not creation. This is a mistake looking for resolution. And I was the one who made it. The presence shifts, waiting. It does not know what comes next, because I have to decide. And for the first time, I truly, completely understand. This is not my escape. This is not my survival. This is my punishment. For the first time in the history of all things, there is no God, no inevitability, no answer. There is only the question, and the only one left to answer it is me. There is no time here, There is no before or after, no ticking seconds, no shifting stars to mark the passage of existence. Only now, only me, and the thing that waits. I have tried to deny it, to tell myself that I am only an observer, a man who fell too far into something beyond his comprehension, that I am still falling, that I am still the thing I was before. But the evidence is against me. Everything I see, I shape. Everything I acknowledge, I bring into focus. I take a step. There is ground beneath me because I expect there to be. I look up. There is light because I assume there should be. I look to the horizon, if such a word has meaning in a place without limits, and something forms. Something that was not there until I perceived it. I exhale slowly. I tell myself it means nothing, but I know that is a lie. I test it. I take slow, measured steps across the blank space of this place. It is not a planet, not a void. It is potential. I focus my mind on something tangible. A stone. Just a small, ordinary stone. It appears beneath my hand. Smooth, cool, perfect. And yet, something is wrong. I feel it decaying the moment I step away. The longer I look, the more it frays at the edges, like an image on an old screen, flickering between states of reality. I pick it up again. It is whole. I release it. It begins to come apart. I reach down to touch it, and it stabilizes once more. A chill creeps into my mind, spreading like slow poison. This is not creation. This is something more terrifying. This universe does not simply allow me to shape it. It requires me to. The presence is still here, watching, silent. I turn to face it. Not because it has a shape, but because I know where it is, just as I know where the ground is, where the horizon is, where the light is. It doesn't speak, but I feel the expectation. It is waiting. Waiting for me to continue, waiting for me to decide. I break the silence. What happens if I do nothing? For the first time, the thing hesitates. I feel the weight of its uncertainty ripple through this half-formed place. It has never been asked this before, but I already know the answer. Nothing happens. If I do not see, there is nothing to be seen. If I do not define, there is nothing to define. I close my eyes, just for a moment. I try to will myself out of this place, to let go, to vanish into the same unbeing that should have taken me in the singularity. But I am still here. I open my eyes again, and the universe is still waiting. I stare into the empty sky, my stomach twisting with a new, deeper horror. This is not a gift of creation. This is a prison of responsibility. I am not a god, but there is no one else to be. The thought makes me sick. I have spent my life defining myself by what I am not. I am not religious. I am not a mystic. I am not a believer in fate or prophecy or divine purpose. And yet, I have been placed at the center of something that demands. I become all of those things at once. I take another step, and something forms in the distance, a structure rising from the blankness of space. Not because I wanted it to, but because my mind simply expected that a step forward should bring me closer to something. That is the pattern. That is the law, not physics, not chemistry, not even time. Expectation. The only force that governs this place is the assumption that it must be governed at all. The structure takes shape as I approach. Not a building, not a machine. Something older. Something I do not yet have the words for. It is not waiting for me. It is waiting because of me. I look at the presence once more. Its silence is different now. Not passive. Patient. As if it already knows what I will do. Because it remembers. Because it was once me. The sickness in my stomach deepens. I am not creating a universe. I am replacing one. And the moment I fully understand that, something else stirs. I feel it before I see it. A second presence. A ripple in the stillness. Not shaped by me. Not formed from my assumptions. Something independent. Something new. I turn sharply, my breath catching in my throat. It is not the presence, not the observer. This is different. This is a mind. Raw, newborn, unfinished. A fragment of consciousness, building itself, thought by thought. And it is not mine. I watch in stunned silence as it begins to define itself. At first, it is just an idea, a probability wave collapsing into certainty. Then it becomes a being, not human, not alien, something else. Something that should not be here. And yet, now that it exists, I know it always would have. Because this is how it always happens. I was never meant to be the god of this place. I was meant to be its first mistake. The one that shouldn't have been here. The one that forced a rewrite. And now, standing before me, is my successor. The next observer. The one who will, one day, replace me. The horror is not that I created it. The horror is that I didn't. I take a step back, suddenly uncertain. And for the first time, the presence, the observer, speaks. You were right to resist before. The voice is quiet, almost approving. But now the question is different. I do not look at it. I cannot. Because my eyes are locked onto the thing that is still forming before me. The thing that is becoming aware. And for the first time, I realize the final question is not mine to ask. It is theirs. I feel the universe shift. I feel the last inevitability take shape. I know what happens next. I do not want to know, and yet I cannot look away. The new mind stirs. It is not fully formed, not yet. It hovers in the space between what is and what could be, flickering between definitions. It does not yet know what it is. It does not yet know what it should become, but it knows one thing. It is not me. I step back, my breath, if I can still call it that, shallow in my throat. It should not be here, and yet it must be, because I have set something in motion that cannot be undone. The observer, my silent companion in this place, beyond creation, watches without judgment. It does not speak again. It does not need to, because now I understand. This was never about me. It was about what comes after me. I do not know how long I stand there, staring at the forming consciousness. Seconds? Hours? The concept is meaningless. It shifts, flickering through possible shapes, testing probabilities. It is exploring itself. And then slowly, it begins to settle. A shape, a presence. Not human, not divine. Something in between. Something becoming. And then, for the first time, it looks at me. The moment its gaze meets mine, something passes between us. Not words, not sound. Recognition. It knows what I am. It knows what I was. And it knows what I must do. Because I am standing in the same place, it will one day stand. I am the first, and I am no longer necessary. I do not want to ask the question, but I do, because I must. What are you? It tilts its head, not as a human would, but as something learning the concept of movement, as if testing the function of awareness itself. And then it answers. I am what comes next. The words are simple, but they carry finality. Not because they are a declaration, because they are inevitable. I feel my mind folding in on itself. I knew this was coming. I knew the moment I saw the structure forming in the distance. The moment I saw my own thoughts shaping the rules of this place. This was never about me being a god. It was about me being the last thing before one. I take another step back. The new presence does not follow. It does not need to, because we both know what happens next. It will take my place. It will observe. It will define. It will make this universe real. And I will fade. Not violently, not suddenly, but like a dream dissolving in the morning light. I turn to the observer. It does not speak, because it has nothing left to say. It was never a god. It was never a ruler of this place. It was simply the last one who stood where I stand now. And now, like me, it no longer belongs. I close my eyes. For the first time since I arrived here, I truly understand what I am. I am not the creator. I am not the architect. I am not the final witness. I am the threshold. I am the thing that must be stepped past. Because no universe, no reality, no existence can begin until what came before it is gone. And I am what came before. I feel it happening before I see it. A lightness, a loosening, not an end. just an absence taking form, like a footprint filling with wind-blown dust, like a book left open until its pages forget to be read. I open my eyes one last time. The new mind is still looking at me. It does not feel sadness. It does not feel guilt, because those things belong to mortals. And what stands before me now is no longer just a consciousness. It is the first stone of a new reality, the first law of a new universe, the first god of something that has never existed before. I smile, not out of joy, not out of fear, but because I finally understand the only question that ever mattered. Not who am I? Not why am I here? Not what is the purpose of existence? Just this: who comes after? And now I have my answer. I close my eyes and I let go. For the first time since the beginning, the universe no longer needs me to see it. It exists on its own. It is real without me. And so I fade. Not into darkness, not into oblivion, but into the silence of a world that no longer speaks my name, because I am forgotten. And because of that, at last the universe is truly born.